You're talking to some veteran players today and also a couple of young guys, and I asked, how important is it for them to set a good example for how to play the game the right way? Because that's pretty much what you're doing out here now. And they agreed that a game like the game in New York, where it looked kind of crazy at the end, but there was structure there for quite a bit of that game. And it just seemed like that was a model for what we're talking about here. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, I think that game and maybe the craziness of the third period maybe sort of sends you down the path. But as the coach back there, it felt like the game wasn't as well played as it looked like when I watched it on video. And so we did a lot of good things. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. And so I've tried to be better at that. But I think the focus is the hardest thing right now. All our guys know what we're supposed to be doing in pretty much every area of the ice at any time, depending on the situation. So how close can we be in our reads? How accurate can we be? And then how well do we play off that situationally? That's the real challenge. And, you see, what was the score there? 9-something, whatever. The Rangers come back and score 9. There's been some crazy scores lately. And I think that it's really a direct result of that focus maybe not being there for the 60 minutes like it is maybe at game 60 or game 40.
And Jake Peltier is a guy that's trying to prove himself to the organization, right? And, I guess a lot of people would say, his reputation is he might be an in-between guy where maybe not quite the skill level of a top six, but bottom six, he's a little small. How do you see him maybe fitting in to what you've been doing lately? Because, he's obviously having a pretty good impact.
Yeah, I think it took him a while to get comfortable here, and that's pretty common with a trade, especially with a young guy who's really still trying to find his game, like you said, at the NHL level. So all of a sudden you're doing it in a new environment, new team, new teammates. All that stuff can throw you for a loop. I think that he's shown that he can provide offense. I think, it's always going to be a challenge for him on the checking side because of his size. So his body position has to be exemplary. His stick has to be fantastic. His reads have to be a step ahead, a little bit more than a bigger guy. And that's going to be his challenge. Can he do it? I think so. He's the type of guy you cheer for. He's got contagious energy on the bench, and that kind of stuff really buys equity with your teammates as well. And so you kind of rooting for him. Love to see it happen, but we'll see. I think the start of next year will be. He should feel a lot more comfortable here and in that role, and hopefully that'll help solidify him there.
When it comes to Tyson Forester, even though he's had the back-to-back 20-goal seasons, he's still kind of an underrated player. He doesn't get a whole lot of buzz sometimes. As someone who's been there with him since he first started out in the NHL, what have you witnessed in terms of his growth and maturity, and where do you think he can go from here?
Well, he's an impressive young man as far as his maturity, as far as being a pro. I think he's never taken anything for granted, which some young players can. I think he was took him a while to maybe figure out where he fits in the NHL level. He seems way more comfortable in his own skin. We talked about that line in general this morning, how we want our guys to try and make plays right now. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. What that line does better than the rest of our team in general is the next 2 or 3 seconds, there's an intent there to get the puck back as soon as possible or to be disruptive as soon as possible. And he's a big part of that. I think Cates is a big part of that. I think Brink's a big part of it. I don't know how you divvy up the, who gets what percentage. I think they all feed off one another. Tyson has a chance. I think his couple best years, I think he can really score. But I think his best impact on any game is going to be a real solid 200-foot game. You watch his growth on the penalty kill. He wasn't real happy earlier this year when I kind of took him off and made him sort of a bit player. Didn't talk to me for about a month, but but I thought at the time it was good for him to kind of watch. And I think when you don't just hand it over to them, I think they do pay attention. I think they do, maybe appreciate it a little bit more. And I think, the four guys that we've had out there up front have been excellent the last 3 or 4 games. And he's a big part of that.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. I was going to say, I remember when Forester was drafted, he said he liked TJ Oshie. He kind of modeled his game a little bit after Oshie. Do you see a little bit of that?
Yeah, I think, Tyson has the benefit of being a bigger body. I was with Oshie in St. Louis for some years when he was young, and he came in and probably a lot more raw when he showed up in the NHL scene. But there are similarities. I think they both take pride in both ends of the rink. They can both make a play, can both score. Both are tough to play against because there's a physical element as well. Oshie was fantastic with the reverse hit. Forrest is heavy on the puck. I'd put them in the same category of player for sure.
When it comes to guys like Tyson, like Owen Tippett, and even with Mitchkoff, right? They're in the 20 to 30 goal range. Ultimately, you probably want to see them with a little bit more goal production, right? But on the other hand, obviously, it's no secret that the center depth here is maybe lacking a little bit, especially after some of the moves he made. With more, if Danny's able to inject a little bit more skill at that center position, will that help those guys, you feel like, become more dangerous scorers ultimately in their careers?
Absolutely. When you bring high-level players onto a team, it's not quite, the rising water lifts all the boats, but it's close to that, where what you get there then is you get the attention of the defenders are with that key offensive guy, and then the contributing guys have more time and space. Plus you get pucks that are in the right spot at the right time so that you can be more dangerous. I think the best example of that I saw was when Panarin came to Columbus and what he meant to that team on the offensive side, and then when he left. He's one of those exceptional players, not a centerman, but even as a winger could almost tell a player where he should be going by where he would move the puck. He's, those players can make the whole 5-man unit better. And so, as we get better as a team here, you're going to see the whole group should benefit from that, not just the guys that are, the guys you're bringing in.
You're getting a decent look now at Sealer and Sanheim for a little while now. It seems like they've been pretty effective. I wonder what your thoughts were, and if so, what have you liked about them?
Well, they eat up a lot of minutes. Sandy's got great motor, great legs. He can really get up and down the ice. I thought the last 2 periods in New York, I thought he was fantastic. Like, absolutely about as well as I've seen him play maybe since the Four Nations. Really looked comfortable with the puck, checked at a real high level. I know it wasn't maybe the most intense game, but at the same time, the last 2 periods, I thought we looked way closer to what we would like to look like, and as far as with the puck and without it, and he was a big reason. Seals is just always a motor for aggressiveness. So if he's not blocking a shot, he's going to close and take time and space away. And I think what he does is draws the other guys on the ice into that same battle as far as quickness and as far as decisiveness. And I think that helps us. I think it helps us spend less time in our zone. And even if we're not on the attack, we're at least not being attacked. There's a little bit more of a balance in the game.